Hello, and welcome back to Her Poison Pen. We began in our last episode to study the art and craft of writing dark fiction for and about women. We started with looking at how writers get their ideas. And today, in this episode, in this beautiful big full moon, we are going to be talking to an amazing author and editor who is prolific, funny, serious, and extremely wise. So today we're going to be talking with Monique Simon. Uh, I'm getting her name wrong. Simon. Maybe she can help us with that. But I met her when she was editing one of my books for Crystal Lake Publishing, and she is an incredible editor. And that's how I sort of found out about Monique and her work. Now, I wanted to read her bio directly from her website because it's such a great indicator of how funny and serious she can be all at the same time. Monique Synman's mind is a confusing bedlam of glitter and death, where candy-coated gore is found in abundance and homicidal unicorns thrive. Sorting out the mess in her head is particularly irksome before she's ingested a specific amount of coffee, which is equal to half the recommended intake of water for humans per day. When she's not playing referee to her imaginary friends or trying to overdose on caffeine, she's doing something with words, be it writing, reading, or editing. Monique lives in Pretoria, South Africa, with her husband, daughter, and adorable chihuahua. She's the author of the Bram Stoker Award nominated novels, The Night Weaver and The Bone Carver, and she authored the upcoming South African horror series Dark Country. Join me in welcoming this amazing woman, writer and editor, Monique Synman. Monique, welcome to Her Poison Pen. I'm so happy that you could join us here today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me.
It's very exciting. And as I explained a little bit earlier, we met when you did some editing of one of my books, and I just was so impressed with your editing and your comments and your developmental letter. It was just amazing. Then I started reading your books and I went, "Oh my gosh, this is a stellar creator." So again, I'm so happy that you could be here with us.
It's really, the honor is mine, and you flatter me, so
Thank
yay.
you. I was just going to mention to you that in the fourth episode of Her Poison Pen, we began a study of craft. Now, the first three episodes, we looked at why dark fiction matters to women in particular and to female creators in particular. And now we're heading into our craft portion of this 1 year journey together. So in that episode, we began at the beginning, which is how creators get their ideas. And now with you, this is a logical step. The next step is how we get our characters. And I have loved your characters. By the way, I just started reading the advanced reader copy of the Easter Maidens. Oh my gosh, tingled all night. And I couldn't even get to sleep, even after my eyes wore out. I had to put the little Kindle down. That's a great book. It's beautifully written. I mean, scary as
Thank
all
you.
get out, but just the language is elegant. So I'm gonna tell everyone to pick up the Easter Maidens. And when it's coming out in about a month from now, right?
Yeah, 3rd of April.
3rd of April. Okay,
Just in time for Easter.
just in time for Easter. Yeah, it's a fabulous book. So anyway,
Thank you.
I wanted to chat with you about characters. And the first question I had is, how, Monique, do you find your characters or do they find you? What can you tell us about that process?
to me, characters do find me at times, but they come to me undeveloped. For example, with Easter Maidens, my protagonist, Hayley Flynn, came to me and I was like, but the decisions she makes doesn't fit her age. Because in the beginning, I wrote that as a young adult book, and the decisions she was making sounded to me more adult.
Mhm,
So from there, I developed the character, but I knew who the character was beforehand.
mhm.
If does that make sense? It's like a
It does.
combination of the two. So I get the characters, they come to me, and then I just develop them systematically into who I think they actually may be. Um, I think that's where the megalomania may have come in.
Do they ever
The
surprise you? I mean, do they ever do something that you didn't think they were going to do?
Yes. Again, Easter Maidens, a perfect example of that. I wrote her as just out of high school in the beginning,
Mhm,
and it was like, okay, this makes sense. And then for some reason, I thought, no, she's younger than I originally thought. She's 16. And then I went back and I'm like, no, this is not the type of things that a 16-year-old would do,
mhm,
dead or alive. That's not a spoiler. She's dead. And so she's going to be forever trapped in a certain age. That means that psychologically speaking, she's going to make decisions for the rest of her undead experience. I don't know how to explain it,
sure.
as that age. So they do come to me. The same with Dark Country. Dark Country's protagonist came to me, Esme came to me. And again, she was a little childish in the beginning to me. And I was like, she's not supposed to be so childish. And I helped her grow up, if
Ah,
that makes sense.
it does, yeah. And it is a bit of a spoiler alert because I have to say, even though I know she's not in the living realm all the way through, I'm like, I don't know, maybe halfway through the book right now, but I keep thinking, I hope that she really is still alive. Somewhere along the line that she's like, this is one of those unreliable stories, and that she is still going to be alive and she's going to meet back with her fiance. And, so thanks a lot for that.
Well, the book is supposed to make you think a bit more. Yes, it plays off in the land of the dead, but there's more like, is she actually seeing reality for what it is?
Mhm,
Um, are we the ones who are asleep?
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
So,
it's
yeah,
a multi-layered book, definitely. The story's great.
thank you.
Well, I'd like to mention that in Tolstoy's War and Peace, there are just shy of 600 characters. And I cannot imagine a modern literary agent looking at a book that has over 600 or just under 600 characters. That just won't fly today. And I don't think modern readers would put up with that either. So, do you have a sense, Monique, of what's a good number of characters for a modern dark, and we're talking about dark fiction, not romance or something like that, but dark fiction. What's a good number of characters?
Well, it depends. Like, if you're going to write the greatest game, I'd like to see some chapters out of the hunted perspectives.
Oh, wow.
So, the same with Hunger Games. Hunger Games is a good example. I would have enjoyed seeing perspectives out of other like contestants, tributes. Um, but it depends on how deep you want to go in the story.
Mhm,
I would not write a book with 600 characters. I think just keeping your facts straight is going to be very difficult.
mhm,
Um, but also it depends on the audience. Like how much. can we use profanity?
We can.
Okay. How much of a mind fuck do you want to give your readers?
Sure.
That's the thing. Um, so yeah, maybe like a don't go more than 12. 12 is a good number. Baker's dozen. Let's go for a dozen.
Okay,
13.
13. Yeah,
Yeah.
13.
Lucky
Okay.
number 13.
Yeah, definitely. So taking off of that, if you have 13 characters in your novels, do they have what roles do they play? I mean, you've got your major roles, your protagonist, your antagonist, your helper, but what about all these other folks then? What are their roles?
Well, that again, it depends on the story. Hunger Games, if you look at Hunger Games, you're going to have a lot of story to go there, and you're going to have your favorites. So, okay, Game of Thrones, right?
Okay.
What I did while reading Game of Thrones, because I was reading the books while I was watching the show,
Mhm.
and every chapter is out of a different like character's point of view. So what I did is I chose my favorite characters and I did not read their chapters. I read the chapters so that it could be like kind of spoil free for me, but still I knew what was happening. So again, it depends. An epic, are you going to write a horror epic? Because that's what some readers might do. They're going to choose certain characters that they like and they're going to either not read them or they're going to read those chapters and leave the rest as, to watch if you're lucky enough to get that. Um, but yeah, it's all about you have to think about audio productions as well these days. Do you are you going to have a whole production set?
Mhm.
Because you're going to need different voices for each character. That costs money. And okay, now we're getting to a bit more technical
It's
business
okay. This is
aspect of it.
craft. Yeah.
Yeah, business aspect of it is um, does your publisher or agent have that type of money? So if the agent or publisher says it's too big of a scope, you may have to go down. I know fantasy and sci-fi, they like a lot of characters, but how many of those fantasy and sci-fi books with huge characters and numbers and everything, how many of them actually see the light of day?
True.
So it's the same with horror. Um, I'm trying to think about any of the zombie books that I ever read, and I'm talking way back because I was a big zombie reader, whether any of the books had big casts. And weirdly enough, there was a young adult series with a relatively big cast, but it got like smaller and smaller and smaller as the kids, kind of died off.
Mhm.
And I keep thinking to myself, was it because of the story or was it due to production costs?
It's
That,
a really good question, kind of a behind the scenes
yeah.
question. Yeah. And
And
I
people
know
forget,
that, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
sorry, people forget there is a behind the scenes when it comes to books.
Mhm.
Especially in the editing and with agents and what's going to sell. And the big thing that a lot of authors these days, we're not in the literati era anymore where you can get famous just for writing books. Your end goal is to get a film deal.
Mhm.
That's where the money is for agents and publishers and everything. So yeah, that's our end goal now. We need to get into the visual business with writing. So yeah, that's the behind the scenes. So everything gets dictated down.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I was just going to mention, kind of on that same thing, we're not just doing books anymore. I know that a lot of book clubs want the audio book because there will be people in the book club that are hearing challenged or whatever, and or visually challenged, and they want the audio book. So that's becoming more and more important that you have a publisher that is going to help you do that audio. audiobook, and that can be expensive.
Yeah. Even if you go if with a Braille book, Braille is expensive books to produce.
Right.
So it's cheaper to produce, I think, audiobooks than Braille books.
Mhm.
So yeah, you have to keep that in mind as well.
Right. Well, we did talk a little bit about your characters in the Easter Maidens. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the characters in this wonderful series and what makes these people in quotes, so special.
To me personally. Okay, so what happened there was we were living in our first apartment, right? And the shadows were I was a bit of an insomniac, and the shadows were kind of talking to me. And originally, I wrote another series that I don't really like to speak about.
Okay.
It got published. It was really bad. But yeah, I was a kid. Come on.
We all have those books under our beds that we don't look at
Yeah,
again. Yep.
we didn't look at it. And eventually I realized, okay, some people actually enjoyed that series. And I wanted to put it behind me.
Mhm.
And so I thought, okay, let's try something else. Because I remember the shadows. The shadows were playing. And lucky for me, I went into another insomnia spell and the shadows came back.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, that's where my darklings came in. My little night weaver kind of came into shape there. And yeah, Rachel is she's one of my daughters.
Mhm.
I just decided she's one of my daughters. And yeah, the Black Adders is just an interesting folklore that fit the theme. And I really enjoy folklore. And I thought nobody ever writes about Black Adders at that point. And yeah, so I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, there are layers, and people usually just read the first layer of the story. And that kind of bugs me sometimes because there are so many more layers.
Yeah. Your writing is very rich. It is layered,
Thank you.
multi-layered. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about it, and it's you write the kind of books that you can actually go back to and say, okay, I'm going to read this again, with a lot of
Oh,
horror and a lot of with dark fiction, I'll read the story, enjoy it, and then move on, right? But with yours,
yeah.
I like to read them again. So neat.
Thank you.
Now, this is a really big question, Monique, because it kind of hits at the core of why we started her poison pen in the first place. When I looked at the kinds of things that I like to read, the darker fiction, most of it was created through the male gaze, and females were presented through the male gaze, and it just um, didn't really ring true to me. I think in the first episode I mentioned that the girls who are running from the monsters, they always have this lacy matching underwear. I mean, like, who wears lacy matching underwear, first of all the time, and secondly, while you're exploring a haunted barn or something, right? It just is not the thing. So I was wondering, and I'm really interested in creators who come through the female gaze, and your work definitely does, in my thinking, come from the female gaze. Can you talk about the differences in those two gazes and explain a little bit your concepts of that?
Okay, if I'm the best way to describe it is not through horror. I was actually speaking with my husband, who's a lawyer, the other day. He was watching The Lincoln Lawyer. And I realized that that whole show, although I appreciate the fact that the females in the show is older, they're all older ladies, and I appreciate that. That show is written out of the male gaze,
Mm.
whereas Suits is written out of the female gaze.
Person.
And I tried to explain that to him. And what it came down to is I forget that actress's name, the one from Ugly Betty, who plays in The Lincoln Lawyer.
I'm terrible with, yeah,
But I think the blonde girl from Ugly Betty, who's now on The Lincoln Lawyer, I realized they put her in floozy clothes, still the second wife type of outfits,
sure.
you know. Instead, where when you look at suits, the equivalent would be, in my opinion, Donna from Suits. She never dressed that way. She dressed professionally, and yet they have the same type of personality, smart, loud a little, you know. But yeah, the one in Lincoln Lawyer is dressed like a floozy for the male gaze, whereas Donna is dressed like a professional for the female gaze. We looked at the fashion. So that's the best way to describe it. When it comes to final girl situation,
Yes.
yeah, we like for female gaze, we're going to wear like boots, like flat boots, and not matching underwear. We're going to be comfortable when we're kicking ass. But for a man, it's going to be those type of heels and a very short skirt for the male gaze, I
Right.
mean. So if you can get a balance, however, between the two, now that would be a book.
That would be a book. Okay, beyond the fashion, what about the emotions? What about the way that women, their strength and so forth, their flaws and their weaknesses? I believe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I believe there's quite a difference between the way that women are portrayed through the male and through the female gaze in terms of their own internal flaws and their strengths.
Yeah, a woman, female gaze is a woman is finds strength in her emotion. Uh, If you look at the Night Weaver, well, actually the second one, the Bone Carver, you'll notice that, yeah, that poor girl is put through a lot, but somehow she pushes it aside to do the things that she will do. And she's strong for it because we can compartmentalize. Women aren't just, we're focused on one emotion at a time. We can compartmentalize our emotions. Whereas for a man, she's going to break down and cry all the
Mhm.
time.
Right.
Well, male gaze. But although some male authors do write like that. So it's the whole pigeonhole story. Like a woman is pigeonholed for
Mhm.
some reason, and it's not just by me. Some women also expect that from their female leads or protagonists or whatever, that they are pigeonholed into one thing. A woman can't do more than one thing at a time.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it does help, and it reminds me of a study that I read back in graduate school, and they looked at tasks that men and women were performing, and they said the typical what who is the typical man, but the men in these studies could do three tasks at one time, right? And they showed them doing these three things. And a woman could do 17 tasks. And they showed a woman with a baby on her lap and, on her hip, and she's cooking and she's on the phone and she's rocking another kid with her foot, and 17 versus three. And so I think that you really can see the difference in that, that.
Yeah, it's all about compartmentalizing because if you think about it, the fact that women can grow up and somehow still be successful, considering how much problems we will endure within our lifetime.
Mhm.
I'm trying to keep it PG here. And
I
we'll,
don't think you need to do that.
okay, well,
Be free.
with like sexual assaults and murder numbers gender-based violence, we all, the statistics are there. We
Mhm.
all are going to suffer through something like that. We can't just go put our whole lives on hold, sit in a corner and work through it. We have to move on. We need to be successful. We need to grow. So we compartmentalize.
Mhm.
Um, we have families. We need to compartmentalize. So we put ourselves and our emotions in the back of our minds and go forth and conquer, as they say,
Mhm.
in the hope that, okay, we'll work it out later. We'll figure it out later. Sometimes those emotions do come to the front. Sometimes we can't run away from it. But again, that's not everybody. Some people will just like go forth, ignore it for until we can't ignore it anymore.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So I think that's the female gaze when it comes to emotions. We can still work through everything.
Hmm. Hmm. And we can be incredibly strong as we're doing that, with all this other baggage in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all women have baggage. I think we just carry it differently
Hmm.
at the end of the day. And that's why female characters written by women are richer, in my opinion, than those written by men. Although there are a few male authors who are capable of writing a good female character. So,
That's true. And one final question. Thank you for that, by the way. It's a lovely way to explain this. One question that I like to ask all of the artists, creators that come on the channel is, what advice would you offer to either new writers or writers who are accomplished about when they're writing dark fiction? What advice would you give to other writers?
don't forget that there is light.
That's lovely.
If you're in the dark the whole time, you sometimes forget that there is brightness and joy and everything like that. The good stuff. There is good stuff, even in horror. But don't forget about the light because, I mean, you only have one life. You can't live in the shadows the whole time. Um, yeah, make good
Although
choices.
if we're writing dark fiction, we might have more than one life, actually. Sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
Well, Monique, this has been so helpful and so wonderful. I love your insights, and I am going to go right away and complete the Easter Maidens because I just can't wait. But thank you so, so much for giving of your time and your expertise to us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a while. I think it's been 4 years since my last interview.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So I'm very honored to be here.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Monique and to her insights on writing dark fiction for and about women. I think she has an amazing grasp on the male-female gaze as they are used in literature. And I hope you will have the chance to pick up one of her books because I know that if you read one of them, you're going to want to read all of them. Anyway, now, as our moon begins to darken just a bit, I will say to you what I always do. Please put words on paper and stay witchy.